it's such a game changer for athletic performance, is our ability to be present and stay present. Be present and stay present. And that's training. That's training the mind. So we like to train the mind every day in meditation, right? Where we're like using mantra or breath, or maybe we actually are calm enough and where we can enter into meditation. But it's like the same thing in the pool, right? But we're exercising that muscle, we're flexing that muscle every day on our meditation cushions. That's what.
Yeah, this stuff just doesn't. You can't expect to show up on race day and be race ready. Like, I'm going to show up at the race, I'm going to be fine. You got to do all this training before you get to race day, and the same thing goes with your mind. And race day is just one example. The supermarket is another. Driving on the 5 is another. There's so many opportunities out there. So if you're not working or training the mind daily, of course you're going to be reactive. Of course you're going to be responding in a way that it doesn't feel good, but it's what feels normal, like something you do all the time. So you got to train the mind every day, every single day.
Welcome back to the January 2022 O Show with me, Jess, and my partner in this whole amazing adventure, sometimes fiasco, of Yogi Triathlete. So thanks so much for coming back this month, and we're starting a whole new year, 2022. Great time to be implementing shifts and putting intentions into action. There's a lot of energy available for change right now. So yeah, welcome to the show. Let's see how this all unfolds.
I like intentions better than resolutions. Yeah. I feel like you intend to do something. What are your intentions? Like, what do you intend to do? It just seems like a strong word.
Yeah, I like intention. I think resolution, it's like, I feel like intention, you can have an intention every day. Something about resolution just feels different. It feels heavier. And I'm sure that's just the meaning that we've put on it, right?
Just a word. It's just a word. Basically, find out something that challenges you and stick to it every day.
Yeah. In 2022, and I'm not a numerology expert by any means. However, I do have a little information about the energy available for 2022. So 2022 is a number 6 year, and you get that by adding 2 plus 0 plus 2 plus 2. And number 6 is the embodiment of the heart. So pretty cool that in our last O Show, we were talking about carrying this intention of loving unconditionally, right? People, ourselves, and everything that happens in our life, right? Like crappy races, great races, good training sessions that, make us question everything, and just having that unconditional love for ourselves as we navigate all these highs and lows of life. So it's the embodiment of the heart, and the things that are going to be in the forefront of 2022, if you so choose, you're going to have a great opportunity to strengthen your relationships and to lean into heightened ideals. So relationships are the ones that are really going to thrive in 2022, are the ones that are going to be honest and open. There's going to be a lot more support available for people to open up and be more vulnerable. So if that's something that you want, right? And that has everything to do with just being yourself. And it doesn't mean that you're not going to have vulnerability, hangovers and things like that. You will, but there's going to be more support. There's more people that get it, you guys. There's more people that get it out there. They want more of just truthfulness in the way that we move through life. And so you're not alone if that's something that you want. And of course, you're not alone, because that's something that we always intend for every day, is just to be truthful with our lives. So, but with everything in this world of contrast, there's also going to be relationships that really encounter a lot of strife and conflict when those heightened ideals and those higher vibrations are not embraced. And really, I think the only reason that those things wouldn't be embraced is like just fear, right? Like fear of not being accepted. But it is a great year for relationships. The other thing is responsibility. So let your yes be yes and your no be no. Like, show up for that race you signed up for, show up for the people in your life, show up for yourself. And the mantra that my teacher had given me for the year is, I joyfully accept my responsibilities. And basically what he was alluding to, and the thing that he wrote to me was like, yeah, you're going to have responsibilities like come up in your face that are going to be super easy to embrace joyfully. And there's going to be the ones that are really difficult. And so holding that mantra that like, I'm accepting responsibility, letting the yes be yes, letting the, even like the policies that we put forward with our business, like we need to stand firm on those. And then also deep healing, which I was, leaving a message for my sister this morning, and I was telling her that, and I said, yeah, it's going to be a year of deep healing, which is going to be like some storms will come, because without the contrast, we can't grow. And without commitment, we can't grow either. So those things will be at the forefront of 2022.
Yeah, I like those. I love contrast. I love contrast.
Careful for what you wish
for. I'm not wishing. I didn't say I want contrast. I had the relationship, because I've been talking with athletes about it more recently, with, injuries and sickness. And, I was there too, where you get so pulled into it and you can't see a way out, or you'll form this belief or tap into this belief that you'll never get back to where you were, or you only wish this would pass so quickly. And that's just us and our human bodies and human minds. But if we look at it as just, what is it reinforcing? Well, for once it's, reinforcing me to eat more, eat wisely, get back on the train of eating, with more intention, more, fruits and vegetables. Like when you start to wean off of it a little bit, or maybe I need to do my, my strength and mobility before I head out for that hour run. Maybe it's a 55-minute run and I take 5 minutes to warm up the body. It's these little things that I feel when injury or sickness or anything comes up, opportunity, that we can learn from it. It's like, how far are you willing to go to stay awake in this pursuit to where you want to go, to this higher calling? Yeah. I know you and I are in it. Like, I think we feel it strongly.
Oh, do we?
Every day.
God.
You really want to go
I was
far?
in it this morning, for sure.
Yeah.
I was just in a lot of contrast this morning, and I sat for meditation after you left to teach, and I just cried. Cried for a little bit. I was like, oh, so good. And then I went into a nice, deep state of peace. I had to move that emotion in order to move into the peace. So yeah, contrast, injury. Like, talk a little bit about that. Like, what are some of the things that you're talking with your athletes about with injury?
Yeah, it can stem from anything, a sore foot to a back to your shoulder, whatever physical ailment is happening in the body. And immediately the mind goes to, I can't do anything. I can't do the swim, bike, or run. And that's so untrue. It's so untrue. There's always something you can do. This is why, I personally believe like triathlon is like this beautiful, orchestrated collaboration of movements that allows you to constantly ebb and flow with keeping momentum going. You can ebb and flow with what activities you're doing to keep momentum moving forward. So yeah, I mean, there's so many times I've been injured and I've just swam, like gone into a swim block. So how am I working with it with the athletes? It's really about, asking, we do this a lot, but asking, what's true about this injury? What is true? Is it really true that this is the worst it's ever been in your whole life? Like, this is the worst it's ever been. And it could be, very well could be, but really ask yourself, is this the worst it's ever been? And quite often it's not. It's just in this moment, it feels really intense. So like you cried today, because you were feeling something. Like if if an injury feels intense, like feel that, oh, this is really intense. It's really intense. It's a feeling. But I know that I'm not always going to feel like this, and that I could wake up tomorrow and this thing could be completely gone. And it depends on the extent of what the opportunity is.
Well, I don't know. I don't agree. I don't know if I agree with that. I think anything can change in an instant. I mean, I guess a broken bone, things like that.
Yeah, I guess that's what I'm
yes, yeah. Until we begin to perform miracles. So yeah, I think you're right.
But there is already a shift. Like, what was it? 2 weeks ago, I was having a heel sensation. I'll speak for me, like a heel sensation, and I'm like, I've just chose to like dive into running. I'm going to get some volume, and it starts this week, and no different from anybody else. And then a week into it, it's like, I can't walk on this heel. Like, what is going on? It's so funny. This is such a rolling thing in my life, or in any athlete's life, if you can look at it. So, you just keep moving forward. I started to bike and swim, and actually started to swim a lot more because you were starting to swim, or are swimming more, and just started walking. So I spent like 10 days walking. And then I just one day woke up and said, I'm just going to try and run. Just going to try and do it. And I've been walking ever since.
Because sometimes not running actually isn't the answer.
No,
I've learned that too.
Yeah,
so I think it's
agree.
So important to discern when we have something that seems to be recurring in our body, to really look at it as brand new and pull from the past the things that have been helpful and see if they're helpful for this new situation of the recurring opportunity in your body. But that's the first thing I do anytime it becomes apparent that it's like, okay, you just gotta stop. And let's face it, it's typically for most people, it's running. Yeah. Is like, first thing I do is like, what can I do? And I just make a list. What can I do? And I just stay focused on that. And it doesn't mean that you don't have those moments of like you just said, like I was just gonna dive in and it was all planned out, and it happens all the time. Like, oh my God,
it's happened so much that I just shift. I laugh. It's like, oh, you thought you were gonna run a lot of miles. Okay, well, you're not doing it right now. So what do we do? Oh, it's meant for me to get on the bike more and swim more and do a little bit more self-care. Great. Well, that's what I'm doing. That's what I've been asked to do. So I don't get all like angst that I have been in that position before, where I feel that resistance. That's really what it is. Yeah,
the resistance is the thing that just expands all the things that we don't want, right? Pushing against. And it's such like such an instinctual reaction when something's happening either in our bodies or in the world outside of us. We want to push against. And the only thing that does is it just the very thing that we don't want continue, like we expand it. It's because we want it to go away. And I think that the grace or the finesse is in acceptance. Okay, this is the way it is. And really feeling all of those feelings of resistance, but not engaging in all the commentary and the thoughts about the resistance. So feel it, like you said, like feel the, as I've heard you say before, like feel the suck, right? Like feel it, fully feel it. But do that in a way where your awareness is fully on the feeling and not engaging in the thoughts about the feeling, because the thoughts, if we keep practicing those thoughts, then we have beliefs about the things that crop up in our bodies.
And this cycle will happen again until you begin to feel and experience these challenges more and more.
Yeah, they're gonna
keep cycling and cycling.
Yeah, like over and over and over and over and over until we overcome. And when I say overcome, I think it has little to do with like pushing through. And I think it has everything to do with acceptance and non-resistance and allowing and moving in the direction towards what we want.
It's a superpower. I really think it's a superpower.
What's a superpower?
To allow and not resist.
Oof, yeah, it's a superpower that you gotta flex. It's a muscle that becomes a superpower that you have to flex all the time. I remember when we read Surrender Experiment by Michael Singer. And we were like, we kind of dove in. We were like, all right, let's just like surrender. And I started to notice how many times in a day that I had the opportunity to fight or surrender, right? To accept and allow or to resist. And it was like overwhelming sometimes, right?
But that's the work. That is going to allow you for next time when you have a day full of challenges to be more on to, okay, I just roll with it. I just say, okay. The resistance is a little bit less. It starts to lose its power and grip on you.
Yes.
Right?
It might still be there.
Oh, it'll still be there.
But it'll be easier not to engage with it.
Yeah, I don't think you can ever get rid of it. I haven't experienced that yet where I have no resistance. But I have the time frame between when the resistance arrives and to my reaction to that has gotten much better and more efficient. I will say that for sure. Yeah. Absolutely. The way it rolls.
Well, so I started swimming and I've, been upping my game in the pool. And I would say maybe like a month ago, remember I was like, oh my God, I can't lift I was like doing this crazy like compensation thing to like try and get the oatmeal out of and I was like, oh my God. And the mind is so funny. Like it catastrophizes. I'm like, I'm going to have surgery. Like I'm not going to be able to swim. And just watching all these thoughts. And the dramatic tone in which I just recounted that makes it seem like I was going down that road. I wasn't. That's the dramatic tone of the catastrophizing mind. But I was just watching it like, oh my God, and those are kind of scary thoughts. And then started to just open up like my pecs more, started to do some wall angels. And guess what? Like I have full range of motion now without any issues. And it's like, I just needed to take responsibility for what can I do? What can I do? And it wasn't off the question to go to the PT or whatever. That's never out of the question. But I had this gut feeling of like, you can, like, why don't you start doing something and see what that does?
Use the library of information you already have from your body work degree that you have. Like use the information and apply it to yourself and then begin to see how that transforms, right? We get so caught up in, and you're probably going down the road. I'll speak for myself. When I have injury, I go down the road of like, will this ever go away? Or like, will I ever be able to run again, right? So it goes super far down. But all it really matters is like what we're experiencing today. So you opened up yourself a little bit more. You don't have as much tightness. It's a win for today. And
I kept checking in with myself. I was like, stopping swimming didn't seem to be the answer, and it wasn't bothering me when I was swimming, but it was interesting because like I would say maybe there was like a week where I was feeling it when I was swimming. I was like, oh, that's interesting. So I just stayed with it and I upped the game on the self-care and everything. And then it was like, sometimes things have to get a little worse before they get better. And then all of a sudden I realized, like, I think I checked in like a couple of weeks ago. I was like, oh my God, like it's completely gone now. But it got a little bit worse, and I was like, should I stop the swim? And that's when you want to have that good relationship with the inner compass, right? Because that's the compass that's going to say, we get that question all the time. How do you know when to push? How do you know when to?
You'll know.
Yeah, so my question is, I don't know. How do you know, right? Like, how do you know? I know how I know. I listen to that intuition, and I'm not scared to take a risk. Like I stayed in the pool. I did the workouts. I, saw, it wasn't a life or death situation. Like I saw how it felt after the swim. It wasn't bad. And then all of a sudden it got better.
I think that's more often than not. I talk about knowing yourself. I know that not doing anything is not the solution for me. I've done this too many times.
Oh my God.
I know I've done this way too many times. I don't have to do anything. I prefer to move the body because I know that in the end, the movement is what is healing me. The movement is what's healing me. That doesn't mean I'm going to go smash myself in the pool or the bike or the run. It means I'm going to keep moving the body. I'm going to do yoga probably, a couple more times a day, like little flows. I'm probably going to walk Clark a little bit more. I'm keeping things, maybe I'll add in some stairs as I walk. Like these are the things that I always have control over and always have trust that I'm not putting myself in harm's way by keeping this moving, right? Keeping this momentum moving. But I also know that I'm not afraid to jump into the pool and give it a few intervals to see how I feel when I warm up. This set that we've been doing in the pool, not the 300 set, but the pulling, like constantly pulling. Like there's times I'm just not sure when I go through this set if I'm going to make it. And that intrigues me to limitless amounts. Like
you do like the first. I do like the first four. So I want you to explain that set. But like I do the first 400 and I'm like invincible. And then I start getting into the second set and then I start getting into the third part of it. And I'm just like, oh my God. Like, everything's getting, because it's, the whole set is 4,000.
If you do the whole set, it's 4,000 pulling.
Which I have not yet done the full. I'm building into it.
Yeah, it takes time.
So it
takes a year. In my opinion, it takes years to get up to that.
Like, quote unquote, safely.
Yeah, so you want it's about durability in the shoulders, and all the time when you do a workout, it should not be debilitating. You should be able to go, ideally, it'd be great to go out the next day and be able to continue to train. So if you're constantly doing workouts and feeling thrashed from them, there's something off. You're going too hard. You should ideally it'd be great to train the next day. But yeah, this set is 4,000 pulling, so buoy band around your ankles, and then paddles. And a lot of the athletes I coach don't get paddles because it really begins to mess with your stroke. If you don't have the power and endurance to hold form for the entire set, stuff is gonna happen. As Jerry Rodriguez says from Tower 26, stuff will happen. And it's stuff moving you in the opposite direction. So yeah, it's 4,000 yards. It's 4 by 100 on ever descending send-off times. So by 5 seconds. And then you do that same thing, but you do 2 of each of the 100s. And then you do the same thing, 3 of each of the 100s. So it's 100. So it's 4 times 100, 100, 100, 100, all leaving on 5 seconds decreasing. Then you go 4 times, 2 times 100. I know it's tricky. 2 times 200, 2 times 200, 2 times 200. All at the same decrease, the same time. Time always stays, you always decrease by 5 seconds. Then it's 3 times 100, 3 times 100, 3 times 100, 3 times 100. Then it's 4 times 100, 4 times 100, 4 times 100, 4 times 100.
So let's just give some send-off time. So let's say like 2 minutes.
155.
150, 145. Right. And the first 4, just like you do the first 4, and then the second one you're doing 2 at those send-offs, and then 3 at those send-offs, and 4 at those send-offs.
And you want that last one, let's just use your example at 145. You want to come in with like 2 to 4 seconds of rest. You want it to be a little bit challenging on that 4th one. So by the time you get to the final set, the last 4 of the 4,000 yards, you've got to hit like really strong. Your arms are tired. You got to stay with form. You got to stay calm, and you got to get under that set. Usually, I get to that point and I make it by 2 or 3 seconds, just quickly. So I hit the wall, wait for a second or 2, and then I'm back out for the next. So
it's a good one to build into. Like I've been doing that set for a while, but when we were in like the pool reservation phase of life, I had 45 minutes. So I would get through the first 4 and then the second 4. And then now I've started to go into the 3rd set where I'm doing 3, 3. This is so confusing. If somebody doesn't understand pool talk, they're like, "What?
What are they descend times?"
It's a good set, but you got to build into it. You got to build into it.
And you asked me, did you ask me if I get lost like on the send times?
Yeah, you don't though.
I don't. Like my times it moves all over the clock, and you're doing it for 45 minutes. So sometimes it's 5 past, sometimes it's 50, sometimes it's 30. Like you got to keep doing math while you're doing this set. It really keeps you engaged. It's changed my, you're going to get stronger from the paddles and all that work. But for me, it's about a challenging set that pushes me or has pushed me out of my comfort zone in the past. We just don't know quite if you're going to make it or not. And there's been, I would say more often than not, I get to that third set, finish it. I'm like, I don't know if I should do 1,600 yards more, But I just say I just need to take that next swim. Because in that third round, I'm coming off just barely making it. And then I go into 4 easies, right? And so I'm like, okay, well, at least I have 4 easies to regroup. And by the time I get that, then I do the rationalization. I only have 1,200 left. So, and it just keeps ticking down. And by the time you're done with it, you're like, how did I just do, 4,000 yards?
So it sounds like you're talking about presence, like present moment awareness.
I guess that this is the set that absolutely teaches that, because you're constantly working with numbers.
I think that it's such a game changer for athletic performance, is our ability to be present and stay present. Be present and stay present. And that's training. That's training the mind. So we like to train the mind every day in meditation, right? Where we're like using mantra or breath, or maybe we actually are calm enough and where we can enter into meditation. But it's like the same thing in the pool, right? But we're exercising that muscle, we're flexing that muscle every day on our meditation cushions. That's what.
Yeah, this stuff just doesn't. You can't expect to show up on race day and be race ready. Like, I'm going to show up at the race, I'm going to be fine. You got to do all this training before you get to race day, and the same thing goes with your mind. And race day is just one example. The supermarket is another. Driving on the 5 is another. There's so many opportunities out there. So if you're not working or training the mind daily, of course you're going to be reactive. Of course you're going to be responding in a way that it doesn't feel good, but it's what feels normal, like something you do all the time. So you got to train the mind every day, every single day.
Yeah. Especially there's a lot of fear out there right now. We've talked to some people who were traveling over the holidays, and we didn't go anywhere. We stayed here, but yeah, there's some intense stuff going on in the world. And so we can get really caught up in that, and then the mind will catastrophize, and the mind it's not bad, and the ego is not bad. It's just left to its own devices, it will create great misery in life. So I don't know, I think for me it's been life-changing to train the mind, and I just can't imagine. It's like walking with Clark on a leash, and having him heal. It's every day. It's for his own safety, walking through the village, like we want him to be able to walk in a way that is, he understands that we stop before we cross the street and things like that. And same thing, and also what we found with training Clark, which we didn't really know with our first dogs, was like we removed the word no, which was the best thing we could have ever done. And what we do is we were trained by a trainer to train Clark in a way where we would redirect him to the behavior that we desired. Isn't this the same thing we do with ourselves, right? Like when we're training the mind, we want to redirect ourselves. We're just guiding. We're not stopping the resistance. We're not stopping the thoughts. We're not stopping the thing that's making us feel really scared. We're guiding ourselves in the direction of what we desire. And through that, we were able to give Clark a lot more love, because we weren't frustrated by saying no all the time, because no loses its meaning really quick with a dog. If everything is no, they don't understand what no is, right? So, and it allowed us to really lean into positive reinforcement.
Everything is no. When everything is no. I've said that consistently. No, don't, right?
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
The cool thing was that we were trained by this dog trainer, which actually I've now taken into my own life as I train my mind every day. It's like we get to celebrate his victories. And so it's all very positive and positive reinforcement. And that's the same thing. We don't yell at Clark, or we don't punish Clark. We direct him in towards the behavior we desire. And I've adopted that for myself, and it works, because I used to beat myself up and punish myself, and that just doesn't feel good, right? Especially when you're injured, right? Like you're injured, like it's bad enough. You can't do what you want. And then you're just like, I'm a loser. I'm the worst runner. You know, I'm just saying me. Like I've definitely had these moments. And, you know, there was no class on this in school. And so wherever you're sitting now with, you know, the mental piece of your life, you're exactly where you need to be to open up to the life you really, really desire. And even though I feel like I'm really living the life I desire, like I still find little things in the corners, like, ooh, look at that limiting belief. Like, look at that. And so you really start to dig down. And, you know, even if you think maybe you've got it all squared away, my experience is that I can always find something because I haven't gotten rid of that ego, and you won't. So.
Yeah, there's always something to work on. Don't just think about when we were at Choice yesterday and Clark was raring to go to get on the counter, you know, because he probably thought it was the coffee shop that has the cookies, right? So do you yank him because he really wants to get up? He did get up a few times, and they just love Clark there. But to yank him and pull him down, it's not going to work. So you just reset. You know, you take him, you walk him over to the edge, and you sit him down, and you just say, "Stay," right? And this is what we learn. You know, they're going to pick up on your energy. So if you're calm, they will eventually become calm. It may take a few weeks, months, years, but eventually it will happen. So it's more of a tool for me, and I'm not going to speak for you, but to have these, we'll call them moments of policing your reaction and just get calm, like take a breath, use the tools that you just shared, like in meditation, shift your awareness from something, not removing it, but shift it away from anxiousness or fear or anxiety or whatever to calm. And how do you find calm? Well, focus on your breath. The same thing can happen in a race. You're standing in line and the race is delayed, or now they say it's not going to be, you know, wetsuit legal. Like, take a breath, shift awareness from the thoughts that are going to flood in that say, well, when I swam without a wetsuit, it was like this, and, you know, what are my time is going to be now? Like, really, really use what you're practicing in meditation. I was talking with someone today on the phone or yesterday. This is why we do them. It's not just to check off 10 minutes of meditation in Training Peaks. It's to use what you're practicing in meditation to what you're doing throughout the day. That's the connection. Anybody can go into Training Peaks and mark off 10 minutes of sitting still and quiet, right? That's great. It's the start, and you want to be consistent at that. But what are you taking with you when you leave the meditation? You know?
Yeah. Like if you get off the cushion, are you like hell on wheels for the rest of the day?
Well, that's why Bob is like, meditator Bob's like, just sit in that, open your eyes and just be there for a moment or two, or as long as you want when you're done with meditation.
Well, that's super important because that's, you know, anybody who wants to strengthen that intuition, right? That if you have that question, when do I know when to push and when do I know when to pull back? Well, you need to develop the relationship with your intuitive voice. The one that knows all the time. And when we come out of meditation, even if it's a busy meditation, the mind is busy or whatever, you know, the body itself, the nervous system is going to have benefit from the stillness and the breathing, relaxing breath where you're stimulating the parasympathetic nervous system. And so you begin to touch that meditative self. You begin to touch that intuitive self. And so when we open up our eyes after the meditation, it's not get up and, you know, get on the phone and start, like, it's sit there. And I think this takes so much discipline to sit there for 2 or 3 minutes and just kind of look around. And what's happening is you're merging that intuitive awareness with the physical world. And then guess what happens? The intuitive awareness becomes more robust as you move through the physical world. It's pretty cool. So then when you're out there and you're training, you're doing your 400s or you're doing 800s and, you know, you got that, all of a sudden that thing, you're like, ooh, there's that thing, or, oh, that's new in my quad, like, what's that? Then you'll know, okay, I'm going to go out on top, I'm going to stop, I'm going to do this last 800 as 2 400s. I'm going to do this last 800 as 4 200s. Like, you just know, because you've got that intuitive part of you that is just all knowing. It just has more, you have a deeper relationship with it. You go everywhere with it. I mean, you're always going everywhere with it, but if you can't hear it, it's because we need to turn up the volume of it.
And to strengthen that intuition is to keep having experiences.
Yeah, you got to risk, like, you got to risk like that.
We're not saying risk like, jump out in the street. We're saying like risk, let's talk athletes, like risk working to hit the time that you're prescribed to hit, but instead, giving it up to something that you may risk in terms of, I may not make the time because I'm trying to slow down. I'm trying to breathe easy. I'm trying not to get so chaotic. I'm trying not to get panicky. Right?
Yeah,
And that will strengthen the intuition that says, it doesn't matter how deep I get into a set and how intense it tends to get. I can always choose calm, and realistically, I'm not going to lose a lot of time. I'm actually going to probably gain time. This is my experience by just relaxing and being in the flow. And I'm talking swimming right now, of reaching and grabbing water versus like really trying to grunt my way through it. But you have to have those initial moments where you might risk in this particular set not hitting a time.
Right.
Because you're learning how to work with the feelings that are coming up, which are not serving you in this particular set.
And test out the intuition. Like if it says, okay, do this, or and test it out. See if it's true. Be an experiment of one. So there's a podcast, I don't know if it's season 1 or season 2 of Awake Athlete, called Intuition versus Mind Stuff. That's a good one. Because I give some exercises in there to do when you're running, like doing when you're training, to start to test out your intuition. So that's a cool one. And season 3 is starting to come together. Yeah. I'm looking for some new music for the intro on that. I'm feeling like I'm different than when I started that podcast, and things are evolving. And so, I just kind of wrapped up the first part of a big project, and so everything had to get on hold, but I'll be looking to start recording that, I think, soon. Yeah. We'll see.
Exciting.
Yeah, it's exciting.
It is. You're going to go into your closet over there, and the closet's changed though. We've done different things since you last recorded in there.
I know.
Now it's got your desk outside. I do the Awake Athlete live in there with Clark. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My podcast closet's been flagged. All right. So I know that people have reached out to us and they want us to talk about what we did on Christmas Eve. So Beej and I did, well, why don't you tell them? I feel like I talk a lot.
We did, our meditation teacher challenged us to meditate Christmas Eve day for 8 hours. And the reason why is because during that time around Christmas, the energy in the world is overflowing with love and compassion and community. And so everybody's in good spirits, and it's a time to pull the collective in as much as we can. So the more that we can meditate and meditate at the same time, the better. So you had done a 3-hour. Of course, with training, this is what you do. Like you train yourself to build up to it. I think the longest I've done was 2 hours on the plane when we forgot, and somehow the timers didn't go off, and we were actually meditating for 2 hours. But that's the longest I did once.
By mistake.
But when the 8-hour was approached to me, it's been in the back of my mind. I've heard it before. Jess and Meditator Bob have talked about it, but it just seemed like something to do. I don't know. I just talk about intuition. It just felt the time was right. And I didn't get caught up in it like, oh my God. I just knew I was going to do it. There's just, I don't know. It's tough to ask people when they know, how do you know? I just know. And I knew. Yeah. If that makes sense.
Yeah, you were pretty chill about it. You were like, got my spot, got my setup. And I was like, in my mind was like, do I put the heater on? Do I not put the heater on? Like, should I use this pillow? What am I going to do? Because Bob's like, don't move. Like, if you have to, but don't move. And you're just like, that idea of like not moving for 8 hours. And I've got that planning kind of part of me that's, pretty well versed, and it's like, okay, do I use the red pillow? Should I use the Zabuton cushion? Like, and I ended up having like a sweet setup. It was like a barge. I had like a barge set up. It was awesome.
You took a crash pad too, didn't you?
Yeah,
from your camping.
That was the barge.
Yeah. It's awesome. Oh yeah, so let's start there. How did your setup look?
Yeah, so when Beej and I lived on the road, I was like, no more of this crash pad or sleeping pad that's like I can roll up and put in my backpack and we can, sleep in a hut on the side of a mountain. It's like I'm going full on biggest, most like comfy crash pad ever. And I have like an extra large, extra cush crash pad. So anyway, I got that because I felt like in the 3-hour meditations or 90-minute meditations, I felt like upper hamstring just like burning. And so I knew I needed a little extra cushion. So I put that on the bottom, and then I put my Zabuton cushion on it, which is a big square cushion that's maybe a couple inches thick. And then I had, and then I got actually purchased like a back jack, like a meditation chair to support my back, which I then slid like a little blanket behind my back to keep my spine nice and straight, and blankets and super comfy outfit. Like, I was like, okay, what's going to be my 8-hour meditation outfit? Like my super comfy Balega, like extra cush socks and Voire sweatpants, and didn't want to be hot, didn't want to be cold. So I think I had like a light sweatshirt on. And I set up kind of like in this little foyer area, which we have now discovered can be a place where people sleep if they want to come in. If they want to come and sleep over,
all the time.
Coach Liz slept there, and she will be sleeping there again in a couple weeks. And it's underneath a window, and I was facing east, which I wanted to face east for sunrise. So my setup was awesome. It was super dialed. I don't know, maybe a couple hours in, I felt something like in my mid back, right along my spine, like those erector muscles. And I just kind of adjusted. That's actually when I slid the blanket in behind me, a small little blanket. And then that was it. That was gone. I had no physical issues whatsoever, which, I could do a 45-minute meditation every morning and I've got physical issues. So this was just a gift from the universe. Like my body felt amazing. So what was your setup?
I was upstairs in the loft. My back was up against the wall. I didn't sit on my meditation cushion. I used it behind my lower back, but I was on one of these floor, if you're watching this, one of these floor pillows. And then Clark's bed was where my feet went in because it's got this nice lip up here. But I also tucked where's the blue thing that we have?
Bolster.
The bolster on top of Clark's edge of the bed. And so I draped my legs over that. So they were out straight in front of me with a bend at the knee.
Yeah,
I'm sitting cross-legged right now, which I don't normally do.
I had a pillow under my knees too. That will just help to take pressure off the low back. And yeah, so cool. You had the dog bed.
And then a blanket on top of me. And then Clark came up and laid in the bed a few times and on my feet, but I just sat there. Just sat there. I just thought about the monks that they just drip water. The water just keeps dripping. They can't move in the caves. Just one of the practices that they...
I've never even heard of that.
Oh, yeah.
Sounds like torture.
Maybe.
Do they do it on purpose?
I think so. Just see if they can stay focused and calm.
That's like a whole other level.
So,
man.
So Clark had come up, especially early on. So we decided what time, like I wanted to get done before noon, and I was thinking 3:30, so we got up at 3, and we ended up starting the meditation at 3:40, ending at 11:40
a.m.
a.m. And I think you can share your thoughts too. I'd love to hear that. But getting up in the dark and starting it, I know we live in a peaceful, like, complex and area of Carlsbad, but even being up early in the morning was even more super. It was even quieter in the morning, like really quiet. And so you could kind of just nestle in and settle in. And that was much easier. I kind of had that vision, like it would be easier at 3:30 in the morning. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. You want to start early. So yeah, we started at 3:40. And when I had done a couple 3-hour meditations, and I started those at 4 a.m. so that I'd be finished at 7. And and I've meditated that early before, and it's a great time to meditate. So yeah, the earth is calm. The world is calm. There's a lot of calm energy, a lot of receiving and giving. There's a lot of love. So there's 2 times a year that we find that. One is on Christmas Eve and one is actually Easter. So we're going to do another one Easter. But the really cool thing, and it was just, the whole thing was like gift from the universe, left and right, left and right, left and right, because we had this insane winter storm moving through. And the winds were super high, and it would just like pour, and there was like, it's hard to explain, like,
I heard the palm trees
experience
sway
when you're meditating for that long, because you're aware. But it was like I was watching the storm. I wasn't in the storm. It was very interesting. And then when we came out, like towards the end, and I don't know when that happened, but I felt sun on my face. And I was like, oh my gosh, the storm is gone. And I knew I'd been there for a while, but honestly, it didn't feel that long. I mean, this was hands down, best case scenario, 8-hour meditation. So amazing. I reached heights that I had not before. I had experiences I had not had before, and I could not have imagined these deep states of bliss. I could not have imagined what I experienced. It was beyond. It was just beyond what we could ever think about. And I don't have words for it, and I wish I did. And I don't have words for it, and I don't think you're supposed to have words for it, because it's beyond what we can articulate. It's touching the non-physical. It's tuning yourself to the non-physical and becoming that. I guess those are kind of the best. That's the best way I can describe it. I had some really, really, and you wax and wane. I mean, but I had some really, really beautiful experiences. Lots of lost time. That did not feel like 8 hours. And I had no battle. I had no, like, in my body or my mind. So this was like such a gift. And I think the last 11 years of meditation like set me up, and not just meditation, but everything I do off the cushion every day. And I think it really set me up for this experience, and I long for the next one. How about you?
Yeah, looking back, as we get out, I kind of recorded to kind of capture what I went through. And I remember, I just remember early on at least 2 moments where I guess lost time. Like it just exists. Like I was just there, or I wasn't there, I guess. Like it's so tough to explain. But there were many moments where I was coming back to so hum, like so hum, breath in, breath out, so hum, or doing breathing, to shift awareness back. And never was there a moment I was panicky or I need to get up and out. I was committed right from the start. Because I rationalize it as you're telling me I just get to sit here for 8 hours. Like I just need to sit and breathe for 8 hours. That's what you're telling me. Okay, I can do that. And then I had a moment where I guess I had floated away and then came back, and I didn't know where my legs or hands were. I couldn't. I was like, are my fingers touching or not touching? Are my hands on my legs? I couldn't feel, like I didn't have that feeling. So the disassociation with the physical, I would say, was extremely pronounced. And that was like that third time. I was like, I don't know. And I'm like, why are you thinking about whether you know or not? It doesn't matter. And then I would come back to breathing. Yeah, that was a pretty profound moment. And then the other thing was really weird was the robot in the baby carriage, which was just so crazy.
Well, that's interesting. Yeah, we had some really like deep memory. I had some like just flashes of memories from my life. I had that. What's the robot in the baby carriage?
I want to get back to that because I was thinking about, I had things that popped in that I've never thought about in my life, and I can't even recall what they were, but some things early on that I have totally, I guess, blocked out of memory. Yeah, but the robot in the baby carriage was weird. It was a blue robot, and this person was rolling a stroller down with the robot in the carriage, and it was coming at me. So for those out there that do analysis of meditations where you have these visions, I'd love to hear what that's about. And we didn't watch any robot movies. We were watching 14 Peaks.
Yeah, that was
the night before, which is really powerful.
Like, couldn't have planned this better.
Yeah.
We started watching 14 Peaks about the Nepali climber who climbed the highest 14 peaks in 7 months.
7 months.
And so we have these like visions of like these super high peaks and just that altitude and where the air is thin, where things are more subtle. This is why we have people meditate on the plane, because you're in that more subtle energy. So it's easier. So that was really cool. We had that, and then we finished the movie the next day after the meditation. But I felt amazing after the meditation.
Did we go for a walk?
We went walking. We went running. I don't know if we made khichdi that night or we just did like tons of veggies. But I felt really, really good. And I mean, so talk about it for like athletes. I mean, I just felt like my whole system was healing.
Yeah, for me, I just felt this empowerment. I felt that I can control my thoughts. I can control what I like. I can commit and execute and follow through and have a beautiful experience. Like, I've got that determination, and I came out of it. I feel, to a sense, invincible as an athlete. I've got this belief strengthened that I can discipline the mind enough to sit still for 8 hours. You know, that to me connects on a level that I'll take to this season of racing as an athlete and be able to feel the moments of how do you know and not know. I'll just know. And knowing for me is going to be like, oh yeah, I've sat still for 8 hours. I can push through for another 20, 30 minutes on this bike to finish strong, not, dial back and just be safe coming into transition. Like, I can push, knowing that I've proven many times that I can, run well off the bike. So it's those moments I feel are going to be less and less, the indecision, and more so it's going to be this trust based on this experience. So this is something that I'll hold with me. I'm not always going to like revel in it, but it's a knowing now that I've got this ability to shift my mind at any time. This just so happened to be an 8-hour meditation. So in training, I think that, when was that? Was this 2 weeks ago or a week ago? It's almost 2 weeks ago now that we did that. I've been going through this swim feeling of like, I need to get back into it. And then things weren't jiving. I wasn't feeling the pool. And so I backed off and sort of just went shorter on my sets. But after that meditation, I just feel like, I feel like I have it. Like, I have everything I need. I just need to move on in spite of any thoughts or feelings that are keeping me back. Yeah. That's what I'm feeling.
Yeah. That's amazing.
Yeah, I know. And you had quite a different experience, because when I came out and I said invincible, you're like, Well,
I think that was a couple days after, so I felt really good the day of, and Bob had warned me that, you can also get stuff like kicked up and you can. So I think it was like starting Christmas Day, I just had this kind of like general malaise and like disappointment with how we live as humans. And almost like a depressive type of energy and anxious, like a fist in my heart. And I was really aware. I was like, okay, yep, you went that deep. And I had these experiences that I just can't even put into words. But to have put myself into an experience that allowed me a deeper understanding of what's available and who we truly are. And it was like the way I explain it is just like, that's available, yet we live like this. And I'm including myself in this, you guys. And so I just watched all of that. It sucked. It felt like crap for days, but I kept moving the body. I was gentle when I felt like I needed to be gentle. Swimming, right? Flow. Swimming is so good for helping to move energy because you're in that flow. You're in the non-resistance of the water. You're being held up. Like, it's just so beautiful. And then it took a while. It was like 4 or 5 days. And then it like cleared. It cleared. But, I went about my day and I didn't get too caught up in it. I was really gentle with myself and, it was helpful to have that warning that could happen. And I reached out to my friend Meg, who's, one of the girls that I do the retreats with, and she's done many 8-hour meditations, probably even longer. And she was like, yeah, pretty much everyone I've done, I've felt that same thing, just like general disappointment in the human race, and how I've lived. And so, that can happen, right? There's the contrast. And so I wish that it was like I had this amazing experience and then it just lasted and I'm still in it, but that's not the case. And we got to live in the world. But the goal, that I set many, many years ago is living in the world, but not of it, not living under the grips of it, following the rules, doing the things, being respectful. But I now know on a level that, gosh, I never thought I would know that there is something besides this physical world, and it is magnificent.
Yeah, I don't know how to top that.
Should we wrap it up?
Yeah, it was a beautiful experience.
It was. I really look forward to the next one.
I do too.
But of course, Bob's like laying it on. He's like 90 minutes once a week, like 3 hours leading into
quarter.
The
I'm like, I really don't want to do those. I want to get just to the 8 hour, but I understand it.
45 minutes twice a day.
If there's resistance, then that's exactly where your healing is. That's the opportunity. That's the contrast, right?
Yeah.
It's too easy to say like, nah, but I'm only going to do it when it suits me.
Right. And it's like, I wouldn't think twice about a 90-minute workout. This is a 90-minute workout. It's just
what we trained ourselves to do.
Right. And I think that's really how I knew I was going to be doing this 8-hour meditation. And, every year, he's been so patient with me. Every year he talks about it. And I'm like, like, that's for you, not for me. And then, although I knew when the time was right, I'd know. And I did. And one of the ways, like, I just started selling myself on it or selling the mind on it was just like, girl, you've done 14-hour races. You've done 7-hour training runs. Like, you've done 6-hour, 8-hour training rides. Like, come on, this is ridiculous. Like, you gotta now take that into the mental training. And so for an athlete to work up to something like that, you're never the same. I'll never be the same. I will never be the same after that experience. You're going to
challenge all thoughts and beliefs that come up. Right? As an athlete, am I not worthy enough? Am I not fit enough? Am I strong enough? Right? These are all the thoughts that flood in, and having this opportunity to push to any amount of time in meditation is going to allow you to see that separation of thought and what's true. And
launch into the gap, baby.
Yeah, get into this juicy space in here that says, this is where I have all my control, right? I was giving away control to all these things, like 8 hours. No, I can't do it. So that means that has power over you. Now I feel like I've collected that. It's in my basket. Like, let's go.
Let's go race. Basket.
Is there a race coming up?
All right. Awesome.
Cool.
Okay. Let's wrap it up. Go down and catch the sunset. I think the sun's about to set.
Let's go do
Getting ready for our camp next week. I'm just so excited to welcome people into this paradise. This is just a healthy, abundant, wonderful utopia that we live in, and feel so blessed to be able to share it with the athletes. So really excited for our camp next week.
If you didn't make it this year, well, let us know, because we may do one again next year.
Maybe.
Maybe.
All right. Meditation starts with just one breath.
Start meditating today. Don't wait.
BJ says you should do it. He's shooting all over you.
No, it'd be ideal.